I have had it with these taxes on this trade route. So, you want to understand the politics of Star Wars? Buckle up. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, the noble Jedi Knights were at war with an evil force known as the Sith. The war raged on for a few years, with the galaxy getting more and more fed up with the fact that the Jedi could just declare war whenever they wanted. Like, come on guys, the Sith disappear and come back like every 5 years, just give it a rest already. Fortunately for the Jedi, the Sith were crazy power hungry, and they all killed each other because they couldn't decide who should lead. So the Jedi went back to Coruscant just in time to meet the new leader of the Republic, Chancellor Valorum. And so Valorum took the Jedi aside and said, "Hey guys, look, thanks for saving us and all, I really do appreciate it. But nobody likes that you keep dragging us into war. So I'm gonna go introduce some legislation, and basically you guys are going to need our permission before you can do any more war stuff. And while I'm at it, I'm going to abolish the Republic military." And so Valorum did all that stuff, and everybody clapped and had a grand old time for the next 1,000 years. The Sith were extinct, the Jedi were demoted to traffic cops, and the Republic stagnated without conflict, making practically no technological advancements and gradually becoming more and more corrupt. Now allow me to introduce a little Mune boy by the name of Higo Damask. Now, the interesting thing about Munes is that they pretty much controlled all of the banks in the galaxy, and every single one of them was obsessed with money. So it should come as no surprise that young Higo's father traded him to a shifty businessman in exchange for a higher position at his company. What nobody knew, however, is that when the Sith wiped themselves out, a single Sith Lord survived and reformed the Order into the rule of two. Over the past 1,000 years, the Sith had survived in the shadows, and Force-sensitive young Higo was now the apprentice of the evil Darth Tenebrous. Higo learns all that he can from Tenebrous, and one day decides to accidentally drop an entire cave on his master. Emerging as the new Sith Lord, Darth Plagueis takes over his father's company and becomes one of the richest men in the galaxy. One day, Plagueis decides to take a business trip to the planet of Naboo. Naboo has two natural resources, plasma energy and angsty political science majors, so it should come as no surprise that Plagueis not only sets up a trade deal with Naboo, but also meets the enterprising young Sheev Palpatine. Palpatine has great political aspirations, but his father's being grumpy and cramping his style. So after some advice from Plagueis, Palpatine does what any normal, well-adjusted teenager would do, and brutally murders his mother, father, and siblings with the Force, and frames it on pirates. Adopting the name Darth Sidious, Palpatine becomes Plagueis' apprentice for the years to come. As part of their grand plan to take over the Republic, Palpatine rises through the political ranks, eventually becoming Naboo's senator and representative on Coruscant. There, he befriends another senator, one Finis Valorum. Yep, that's right, the descendant of the guy who took away the Republic's army. Needless to say, among the corrupt slime of Coruscant, Valorum has quite the fan club. And to top it all off, he has morals. Ugh, who wants those? However, through subtle manipulation on Palpatine's part, Valorum is elected to the Chancellorship, and spends the next 7 years leading the Republic from atop a flimsy pedestal just waiting to be toppled by a light breeze. Now we gotta take a step back and look at the structure of the galaxy. The galaxy is divided into 3 sectors. Okay, really it's divided into way more, but for the sake of discussion there are 3. The wealthy core, home to worlds such as Alderaan and Coruscant, the mid-rim, home to average worlds such as Kashyyyk and Naboo, and the outer rim, which the Republic largely ignored, allowing criminals to rise on planets such as Tatooine, and separatist sentiments to grow on worlds such as Geonosis. Now, the mid and outer rim worlds need supplies from the core, and the core wants materials and luxury goods from the mid and outer rim. So we get this big ol' system of hyperspace trade routes. Thing is, though, all of these trade routes are being taxed by the central government, so there isn't as much trade going on as they would like. So one day, the government is like, hey, let's make these things called free trade zones. There will be no taxes there, so we'll be able to create more trade in those areas. There is literally no way that this could backfire. Enter the Trade Federation, a galaxy-spanning corporation owned by the cowardly Nemoidians. The Federation is basically space Comcast. They swoop in and start taking over all the trade in the free trade zones, and the government is like, now remember you crazy kids, monopolies are illegal. Why, we would never dream of monopolizing the free trade zones. So the Trade Federation takes over 99% of the trade in the free trade zones, and pretty much all the rest is hijacked by criminal organizations like Black Sun. But don't worry, Palpatine has a red man with horns go and kill all of them. Now the Federation is even more powerful. But then the government is like, this is too much power for the Trade Federation. We need to change the system to give the smaller worlds more control. And Plagueis steps in, throws a bunch of money at them and says, nah. Give the smaller worlds a bit more power. But in exchange, give the Federation a seat in the Senate. So the Federation gets a seat in the Senate and continues to overcharge their customers and underpay their suppliers, all while stealing business from the smaller worlds. Naturally, this breeds some strong emotions in the populace of the galaxy, and soon enough a small group of terrorists pops up to challenge the Federation. Now the Sith want to see the Federation succeed, so to achieve this they funnel a bunch of money down to the terrorists. And now they're a big group challenging the Federation, so the Federation builds up a small droid army to defend itself from the terrorists. Meanwhile, Palpatine calls up a member of the Federation by the name Newt Gunray, and he's like, "Hey Gunray, remember the Sith? Yeah, that's me. Do everything I tell you and I'll make you super powerful."
But how do I know you're really a Sith Lord?
"Watch as I force choke your potted plant from across the galaxy."
That plant was a gift.
So Palpatine helps Gunray make some great trade deals and he starts to rise up the ranks in the Federation. Then Palpatine calls him up again and says, "I need you to ship a very specific amount of obscure foreign currency across the galaxy." So the ship sets off with the currency on board and Palpatine calls up the terrorists. "I need you to intercept a Trade Federation ship and steal a very specific amount of obscure foreign currency." So they steal it and the Federation goes crying to the Republic.
We were attacked and lost a very specific amount of obscure foreign currency. You need to allow us to have more battle droids to defend ourselves.
Then Palpatine goes to Chancellor Valorum, who says,
"The Federation is already far too powerful and everyone knows it."
So Palpatine says, "Let's cut them a deal. They get their army, but in exchange we get to tax the free trade zones. It will finally let mid-rim businesses make a profit." Valorum agrees and Palpatine calls up the terrorists. "Valorum's going to give the Trade Federation a bigger army. Go scare him with a fake assassination attempt." So the terrorists attack Valorum in broad daylight and he goes back to Palpatine.
"Hey Palpatine, maybe we shouldn't go through with this deal."
And Palpatine says, "Nonsense. Let's just relocate the meeting to discuss it. I know. We can meet on Eriadu, homeworld of Lieutenant Governor Tarkin. We can tell all his security forces to be watching out for an attack against you." So they plan the meeting on Eriadu. Meanwhile, Palpatine calls up the terrorists. "Hey, remember that very specific amount of obscure foreign currency you stole? Invest it all in this crappy little mid-rim business called Valorum Shipping and Transport. Make sure to transfer it through a bunch of shady banks first, though. Oh, and by the way, don't forget about our plan for the Eriadu meeting." Unfortunately, during all of these shenanigans, there's an actual assassination attempt against Plagueis. Palpatine determines the culprit to be none other than King Varuna of Naboo, whom he promptly brutally murders with the Force, as would any normal well-adjusted elderly senator. He then proceeds to nominate a replacement ruler, in the form of 14-year-old political prodigy Padme Naberrie. Now, all the relevant parties proceed to the meeting on Eriadu. Palpatine receives a call informing him that King Varuna mysteriously died. Meanwhile, across the room, Newt Gunray gets a call of his own. "Pizza delivery for, Newt Gunray?"
"What? I ordered no pizza. I'd better go check this out."
So Gunray leaves the rest of the Trade Federation leadership behind in the meeting room. Suddenly, Valorum's Jedi Guards sense a sniper, and they and the Eriadu security forces rush off to take him out.
"We have you surrounded. Your assassination attempt has failed."
"That's what you'd like to think, isn't it?" The terrorist presses a button, and all of a sudden the battle droids around the Trade Federation swivel around and open fire, killing everyone in charge.
"I hope you guys like anchovies. What did I miss?"
Newt Gunray becomes leader of the Trade Federation by default. The deal goes through and the Federation gets his army, but the Republic begins discussing taxes for the free trade zones. At the secret request of his good friend Senator Palpatine, Tarkin demands that Eriadu be put in charge of the investigation rather than the Republic. Without Palpatine's funding, the terrorists fizzle out, and the case is allowed to go cold. Following their spectacular failure at Eriadu, the Jedi are further scorned, and a clause is added to the Trade Federation deal, saying that the Jedi can't interfere with trade negotiations without authorization by the Senate. Palpatine leaks some choice information to the Senate's Internal Activities Committee. They find that the Trade Federation reported a very specific amount of obscure foreign currency missing. That same amount was then anonymously invested in a previously small-scale mid-rim business owned by the Valorum family. And almost immediately afterward, Valorum announced a deal to be made with the Trade Federation that would serve to boost the company's business. The following months see Valorum put on trial on charges of conspiring with the Trade Federation, permanently tarnishing his already weak reputation. During this, Palpatine calls up Gunray and congratulates him on his new position.
"A fat load of good it will do me. This taxation is completely unfair. It will ruin us."
"I say you should send a message to the Republic. Show them you will not stand for this. Blockade a planet."
"Yes, we can blockade Eriadu for failing to protect us."
"No. You need to blockade the homeworld of the senator who proposed this ridiculous charade in the first place. That ingenious, strapping young Senator Palpatine of Naboo."
"We will get right on it, my lord."
Plagueis and Palpatine meet back up and review their plan.
Let's go over it once more. Step 1. Ruin the reputation of Finis Valorum and prevent Jedi intervention in our plans.
Check. Step 2. Get the Trade Federation an army and replace their leader with one who owes me for all his success.
Check. Step 3. Blockade Naboo, preventing necessary supplies from being brought to the planet.
Step 4. Invade the planet and force the incompetent teenage monarch to sign a treaty legalizing their actions, preventing the Senate from intervening.
Step 5. You will complain to the Senate that your people are starving, and put all blame on Valorum for giving the Federation this much power in the first place.
Step 6. Convince somebody to call for a vote of no confidence in Valorum, relying on the fact that no one likes him to ensure he is removed from office.
Step 7. Convince somebody to nominate you for the Chancellorship. Take control, force the Federation to back off, and emerge a hero.
Step 8. Get Plagueis absolutely wasted. Wait until he passes out, and then electrocute him in his sleep, claiming the title of Dark Lord for myself, and ruling the galaxy with Darth Maul by my side.
I'm sorry, what was that last one?
Oh, nothing. Say, let's have a drink to celebrate our victory over the Republic. First 20 rounds are on me.
Oh dude, rad, let's do it. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could somehow miraculously teleport the Queen to Coruscant in the middle of the blockade? Our little girl would garner a lot more sympathy in the Senate than some old dude. This could end up going even faster than we anticipate.
Oh, that would be cool. Shame there's no possible way it could happen. Meanwhile, Chancellor Valorum calls a secret audience with the Jedi.
Look, Master Jedi, I know it's technically illegal to send you guys on trade negotiations now, but can't you just spare 1 or 2 Jedi for a secret mission? For an old friend?
Have one, we do. A misfit hears, always disobeying the wishes of the Council. Already one apprentice he has had who has gone to the dark side. Miss him, nobody would.
That doesn't sound very promising. Does he at least come with a snarky British sidekick?
As a matter of fact,
Sold.